Welcome to Book Cuddle. I'm your host, Karen Rader with Read Gab. Today we have guest PJ Gardner. Welcome, PJ. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
And I'm really excited. This is another animal book, and it has just been within the last year that I've gotten into animal books. And I think this is kind of your thing, right? PJ is animal.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you do animals. And so this is fun because I didn't realize how much I loved them until this last year. And I just adore this little book, Worst in Show. So we're going to talk about all the worst and all the best just of the book and also of writing in general. But first, PJ, I want to give you a second, introduce yourself. And if you don't mind, can you tell us what PJ stands for while you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you?
Absolutely. So my name is PJ Gardner. PJ stands for Paula Joe. And I went by Paula
Uh-huh.
through like elementary school and high school, but my family always called me PJ. And I always felt like PJ was really more who I am. So when I went to college, I just was like, I'm PJ now. So just with everybody. Although I find that even though it's a nickname, I would still get nicknames. Peej, Peegers,
Yes.
PJs, pajamas. And I was like, PJ is the shortest almost of all of those.
I make fun of my husband so much because he really wanted initials for one of our kids. And so we named him TC, Thomas Christian. And like we had so many things that would stand for, and it was all because of his brother BJ. And it's funny, like he shortens BJ, he's like Beej
Yeah.
and like Tease. Or people will call TCT because I'm like, yeah, because TC wasn't very short to
Yeah,
begin with.
it is so funny because like it's just I think human nature. It must be like
Yes.
just like a natural habit to be because it's also a nickname is also an endearment. Like it
Yes.
shows a closeness, right? So yeah.
So now they
Um
need to feel like they're
yeah, like
some more
like well now
endearment.
we're special because it's an even different nickname.
Yes, now we're special.
And so I'm trying to think about what else about me. I live in Southern California. I've been a writer for just about 11 years. And before that, I was primarily, a mom. And then I did customer service for a pool company. Anyway, that was very long, 12 years, but I was able to be home with my kids.
Nice.
And let's see, I have three sons, a great husband, and I had two dogs until late last year. My sweet Rosie, who was the model for Horace in my Horace and
Oh,
Bullwinkle, she passed, and that was and suddenly, and that's been kind of traumatic. And
sorry.
then, but I do have another, and they're Boston Terriers. And then
Nice.
2 years ago, the universe gifted us a cat, and we didn't think we were cat people. And it turns out now I'm kind of a cat person, but it's just because she's a sweetness. She's so sweet. And so that's kind of me. That's what I do.
I love
That's
that
my
the
life.
universe gifted you a cat. That's
Yeah.
how it is said. I
Well,
was always a cat person and not a dog person. And we got a dog. And then we had a traumatic situation where we lost our dog. She is not dead.
mhm,
She ended up being rehomed through this traumatic situation. And, but it was still very traumatic. And that's when I realized how much of a dog person I was.
mm,
I was the first one ready for a new dog, and I'm just like, I didn't think I didn't realize how much I loved her for one. I knew I loved her, but yeah, it's funny when you don't realize
yeah.
you're that kind of animal person.
Yeah. And you really don't realize how much a part of just your everyday life
Yes.
they are. But it's kind of this thing too, also you love whom you serve, right?
Yes.
You
Oh,
love who you
yes.
serve. And so you serve the animal because you're the one that's taking care of them, right? And you do all of that. And you develop that same kind of like you develop just a deep love for them. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it's so fun. Like the animals know that I'm the mom of the house. I swear. Like
Hmm.
when my husband got home from getting her spayed, I was walking outside and met him at the car. We had this big long drive, and she gets out and she comes over and she's just whining to me and she's so sad and comes up to me and I dies and he's like, she didn't do any of that to me.
Yeah.
When I take her, my other dog now, talking about the other
Yeah.
dog, when I take her to be groomed, every time she gets so nervous, she pees on the floor. She
Hmm.
doesn't do that if he takes her. And so it's just like they know that I'm the one who shows compassion and that they can be their emotional selves, even animals. It really is, like you said, they
Yeah.
that you love and care for them. Okay. I'm
Okay,
getting
what's sort
so
of funny about
distracted.
that though is I have a different term for it.
Okay.
Because I'm like, there's in a parental relationship, there's always the sucker and the disciplinarian. And so and you're like compassion and empathy. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably the nice way of saying it. I'm just like, they
Oh,
all know I'm the
thanks. Thanks,
sucker.
PJ.
Anyway, sorry.
Don't tell my husband because he's totally going to be on board with that term.
Anyway, so yeah, so but I definitely like your way of describing it better though.
Thanks. Well, are you the sucker or the
Oh
disciplinarian?
no, I'm the sucker. Like,
Okay.
oh,
So you're
and
right
they
there
know,
with
which is
me.
why I can say it because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm
That's
the
exactly, yeah. Like with it, every now and then I'll make a Karen joke, not about other people being a Karen,
yeah.
like because we need more Karens in the world. Or if I go to complain about something, I'll be like, first of all, my name's Karen. But
And
I'll
then
be
I'll
like,
leave.
nobody else can say or do that though, because that's rude that you made my name into an insult.
Yeah.
But every now and then I'll do it. All right. So for an author icebreaker, I love to just get to know you a little bit based on a book. So we are going to do Fablehaven, which is currently being made into a movie. And so Brandon Mull writes about these secret magical animal preserves. And so this family that lives there develops friendships with them, particularly the satyrs, that they, become close family friends with them and they have different relationships with these magical animals. What is an animal or magical one? What's a magical entity that you would love to have a friendship with?
Okay. You're going to think I'm insane, but I really thought about this and I was like, I don't know if you remember, there was in the grocery store, there used to be this, like the Inquirer called the Weekly World News.
Mm.
And Bat Boy was frequently on, like Bat Boy, and they had this really cute picture. It's obviously fake because it's the Weekly World News,
Right.
but Bat Boy was chaos. And I was like, if I wanted a best friend that was a mythical or fantastical creature, I was like, I would want Bat Boy. He stole a Mini Cooper and drove, and the cops chased him for like, I don't know, for whatever. And I was like, I just feel like me and Bat Boy could get into a lot of mischief. And that, and,
Nice.
and I'm like, I think that would be fun. That was the one I came up with.
I
And I
love
think
it.
Tiny
And
was.
I love that it's like based on this picture that you'd see standing in line at the grocery store. You're like, hey, me and him. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt a very deep kindred spirit in him. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So
Oh my
Bat
gosh,
Boy
I love
is my fantastical best friend.
I love it. We all need a fantastical best friend. All right. So tell us what the newest book came out in March,
Mhm.
Worsted Show, is about. Because for those of you who haven't seen this book cover, it's Worsted Show. We've got a dog and a ferret on the cover, and then the word best is crossed out. So it's instead of best in show, worst in show.
So basically, it's the story about a ferret that's part of a crime family in New Jersey, and a group of weasels from Wisconsin are trying to move in on their territory, and they're going to sabotage the big dog show, where Dot, the corgi, is the favorite to win. And through the course of trying to save her, Phil, the ferret, and Dot, the corgi, become best friends, and that's the premise of it.
I love it. And I adore it, especially, I don't know, Phil and Dot. It surprised me too, because I'm like not a dog show person. And I'm like, I just adore these characters. They're just so sweet. And I also maybe want to snuggle them.
Oh, they're so yes, and the that cover image of them is just so like you could almost feel the fur, right?
Yes.
You do want to nuzzle that. Yeah, yeah.
And I love Dot's just exuberant personality. Like when she meets Phil, she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're adorable! If I just push your cheeks." Like she's just so
Uh,
excited by how cute he is, and I'm just that was contagious for me. That I'm like, "Oh, he is so cute, isn't he?"
and it's funny because I based her kind of on Elle Woods
Oh,
from Legally
nice.
Blonde.
Yes.
So that was very much kind of that, like, oh, I liked that
Yes.
sort of peppiness. But also, it took me a long time to come up with Dot as the other character. So, there's all those different dogs like that
Yes.
we meet. And Phil was always Phil, and kind of his dynamic was pretty much always the same.
Yes.
But it took a very long time to figure out which was the right dog. And initially, I had the French bulldog.
Oh, okay.
Um, and it just didn't work because she wasn't a character that could advance the plot,
Okay.
because because of her worries or whatever.
Mm.
And then at one point it was all the dogs had a
Oh,
chapter, and then it was a lot. And then when I finally landed on Dots, it really started to flow. But
nice.
it took a while to figure out who was my
Once it
other
was
favorite.
right, it felt
Mhm.
right. Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. I have to ask, because this is the only of your books that I've read. Is this a companion? Do any of these creatures feature in another one of the books?
So no, this one's a standalone, and The Great Zudini is the standalone. And it's about a fennec fox and his best friend, a stuffed rabbit that break out of zoos every,
Okay.
right? And then he winds up at an animal sanctuary and makes a
Cute.
family there.
Nice.
And then Horace and Bunwinkle is a series. So this is the first
Okay.
one. And then,
Nice.
and it's about a dog and a pig that solve mysteries on a farm. And there are three of these. So,
All right.
so
Well, I have a request for you then, PJ.
okay.
Let's start doing some cameos in your animal books. Have
Okay.
like some of these characters show up as cameos. I always love that, even when it's not a companion story. Like when we were talking Brendan Wall. So in the Beyonders series, there's just a couple characters, and you'd have to be familiar with the series because it's not the
Hmm.
main characters. And they
Hmm.
show up in the Five Kingdoms just in the Necromancer book. And yeah, it's that would be fun to just
No,
have some
absolutely. And I
appeal.
do love that idea. I do try to cross-pollinate where I can, but
Yeah.
it works in some.
Might not work. Yeah.
I will tell you one thing about this is I have always, this is a weird author goal. I
Uh-huh.
have always wanted a book with the word crossed out and another
Nice.
one written over it. It's such a weird thing, but when I saw that they had done that, it just filled my heart with joy. I was like, I
Oh, and
finally
you
got it.
didn't request it though. Like that was
No, I
like,
didn't. Yeah.
yay.
And so it was just perfect. I was so excited.
I love that one of your goals was fulfilled here. Okay, tell us, we're going to ask a series of questions. What was the worst part of about writing Worston Show? And I'm just going to let you guys all know I'm giving PJ the liberty to interpret worst however she wants. Like hardest, took the longest, translate it however you want because some of them will be hard to pick. Well, there's not really a worst. So, all right, worst part about writing this book specifically.
I will tell you honestly, I was very burnt out when
Okay.
I started it. So the worst part about writing the book was writing the book. It took me almost a solid year and a minimum of 9 versions.
Wow.
And when I'm telling you, I mean like they were almost total rewrites each time. It was just a hard book to write.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to really find the heart for each of the characters. And then, as I said, it took a long time to figure out who was the right
Yes.
match for Phil,
Who was going
right?
to be the dog?
Yeah. And so it just, I mean, the worst part was just how hard it was to really work to that place. It really was like a year. And it's not a huge book. And it just, in that sense, it was really hard when I finally got those pieces together, right? It got a little easier. You know what I mean? I was able to enjoy it. But I will say, this is one I've enjoyed now that it's been published more
Right.
than. So the worst part was actually writing it. I
Right.
mean,
Okay.
so that's the short part.
And then best part?
The best part is just that I I made these characters and I love them, and I'm just glad they're a part of my life. That the best part is that I know them and they're a part of my life now.
That's cool. Well, I have to tell you, this has sealed the deal that I'm now a lover of animal stories. Like I've read several, like I told you over the last year, Forever Ripley, The Unlikely Tale of Chase and Finnegan was, by Jasmine Warga. It just was like, and then I read this and I was like, okay, let's just admit it. I'm a, if anybody can ever do that to get me a romance book lover, because
Mm,
that's my but
funny.
you
Yeah.
see change. One of my fellow creators is not a lover of fantasy, and every now and then he'll find a fantasy book that he likes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So what's the worst part about actually being a writer?
The worst part about actually being a writer for me is that I have so many ideas. I'm
Yes.
really an idea machine, and it's the worst part is picking, like being like, okay, I'm going to focus on this one. I also think this might be some ADHD, which I did not find out until like last year that that I'm like, oh, I think I have ADHD. It's
Yes.
also the new shiny often gets me, but the I think the worst part is just picking. It's just narrowing the
And then
focus.
staying with it.
And
Like if
yeah.
you have a hard time not working on multiple projects at once.
And lately I've just been giving myself permission to have multiple
Good.
projects.
Nice.
So that like because I think then it takes the pressure off of the one right project,
Yes.
like mentality. So I do work on different ones, but even that's hard because there's so many ideas. But
Yes.
and I also have a tendency to overcomplicate. If there's if there's a simple story, I can make it hard in 30 seconds. I'm like, I can make this too hard to write like this. So that to me, that's the worst part is picking.
Cool. What's the best part?
Honestly, it's it's reading your own stuff and being like, oh my gosh, I wrote this. Like, I had forgotten a lot of this book. And then when I got my copies, I opened it and I started reading and I was giggling, like I was laughing
Have you
out
listened to
loud.
the audio? It was so fun.
And I just was like, I was like, you made this. And
Yeah.
that, it was just, it's that. And then honestly, too, holding well, this is the best part of publishing, I think, is
Yeah.
holding your book,
Yes.
right? You know, writing, honestly, writing, I think is the end, typing the end and being like, I did it.
Done.
I did it. So yeah,
Accomplished.
yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. Okay. People get some crazy feedback on reviews and stuff. Are you a reader of your own book reviews? What is the worst feedback or something that somebody has ever said about something that you wrote?
Okay. I I try not to read mine because it's really not my business, right? But I will often check to see if I'm getting
Okay.
reviews, right? And so, but in when you start checking, then you're like, just skim, you're
Just
right, so
read a
like
little bit.
right. So
Why
I
would
do
they
wind up
do
getting
this
them.
star level or yeah.
The, the worst comments though are the ones where they're like, this book was childish. And I'm like,
Oh, it's written for a child.
I was like, did you see the cover? Like it's in the kids section. How right? And and then one recently was also like that there were talking animals, but there were also talking humans. And they were super confused by that. And I was like, I didn't invent that. Like that's just a thing,
A
you know,
thing people
and
do in movies and books.
and they had other critiques of the book, but they were actual critiques of what I had done. And I
Uh-huh.
didn't have to agree with them, but I thought, okay, that's
Okay.
legitimate, right? Whatever you feel about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I blew their mind apparently by having talking animals
Whoa,
and talking
whoa. Either
humans.
the animals talk or the humans, PJ. Where are you going?
It's like it's one or the other. So a lot of times it's mostly when the worst reviews are just the ones where you're like, you didn't get it from before you even started reading. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like,
Yes.
and then I'm like, but for the and just where you're like, these are children's books, and I don't think that should be too shocking. So those are the worst reviews, just because you're like, or the other
Well,
one that does where they're like, I don't like animal stories, and then they're like, and then they give you a bad review, and you're like,
well, why'd you read it, you punk?
yes, you're like, this is 100% an animal story, which you can tell from every one of the covers.
Yes.
So yeah, those are the ones that crack me up where I'm just like, why, why are you here then?
Well, I've started to, this helped me a lot when I first started because I've embraced graphic novels since then. But when a
Mm,
few years ago when I was reviewing, I did not like them. So I was like, I'm rating it against what it is. And while I'm not
mm,
super into romance, if I do agree
mhm.
to read a romance book, I rate it as a romance book. Because if I'm like going in like, well, I don't like romance books, then that would be very rude of me to
Yeah,
give it a 3 star based on the fact that I don't like romance. So I have to go in with the mindset that I'm rating it for what it is.
yeah. I I find it like personally as a before I started writing, I was a much different. I had a I was it's funny, my reviews were way more critical, but I
Right?
read everything.
Yes.
And now as someone who's a writer, I really rarely try to leave reviews
Uh-huh.
because I don't but I'm much kinder in the reviews, but
Yes.
I'm much more critical in the actual reading.
Mm,
And I'm much more selective about what I read now,
yes.
and so it was kind of an interesting kind
Yeah,
of flip that
I do
happened.
see that because my goal is to say what's good about it.
Hmm.
Even if I rarely give like a 3 star, but yeah, even if I were to give a 3 star, I am like, I do want to just say what's good about it. And then if they're like, well, what did I miss? I'm like, well, you'd have to write me and ask me because I don't feel it's a rubric. I think we should go to a 10-star system, everyone. 10-star system. Because
Yeah,
everybody's like, well, it's like math and it's like an assignment. And I'm like, it's not a rubric. No, it's not. It's like
yeah.
at a restaurant, it's not a rubric.
Well, and it's
But I
interesting too
get
because
people's feelings that it is.
yeah,
So because of that, I'm like, maybe I don't do 3 stars. Maybe I only do 4 and 5. Because that's my gift to people. If it's a 2 star,
yeah.
I don't review it.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, as an author, that's what I would prefer. It's like if you can 4 or 5, but look, if you hated the book and it was really problematic, hey, look, again, it's really not my business
Right.
what the reader thinks of it. But I do find it interesting, and this is a hard thing to accept, is that some people's 3 is actually good.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, because
right?
that to me is a 3 is it's kind of like when I rate crumble cookies. A 3,
Yeah,
I still liked the cookie and I'd order it again because I want 5 to be like, Gosh, this was amazing,
Yeah.
mind blowing. It's one of the best ever. I also think in terms of half stars, like I round up,
hmm
and that
hmm
helps me too. That if
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's a 3.5 star, so it gets a 4 star because there's not anywhere to put 3.5 stars.
Oh, see, I like that. And I wish there was more, like more rounding up. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people round down.
Yeah, no, I don't
You
run
know?
down. And I give
Oh.
more 5 stars because of that, because I
Mhm.
really do want 5 stars to be the books that I'm like, yes. So
Yeah.
some of them that aren't those books got it because they were a 4.5 star. And I'm the
hmm
only one who knows that. I don't post that in. So
And nobody needs to know.
nobody needs to. All right, let's see. Oh, a best feedback. We got to do the best now.
Oh, best feedback. I've had a hard time booking school visits because, a lot of times there's so much that is involved
Yes.
to even getting you there. But I did do a school visit. I don't remember how long ago it was now. And one of the little girls came up to me afterwards, and she was probably like third grade, which is about the target audience, like is like the perfect audience, third, fourth grade for
Yes.
this, in my books. And she came up to me afterwards and she's like, I think you might be my favorite author.
Oh,
And
sweet.
I was like, that is so sweet. You did not know who I was a week ago, but I love that you liked the book so much and that my visit did that. So I think especially with Kidlit, actually interacting with children, actually interacting with your readers, because they're not going to lie to you either, right? If they don't buy it, right, they're going to tell you to your face. But if they love it, and they sort of tend to love it because they're meeting you too.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Right? It's just this great feeling. You feel like a rock star,
Yeah.
but it's hard to get to your audience sometimes, and that's frustrating. But when you do, it's amazing because kids are really into it. Like they really are, and they want to know. And so that to me, that's the best part is interacting with the kids.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Let's do a quick worst thing about dogs, best thing about dogs.
Worst thing about dogs is my dogs are just they want to be on me all the time.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I think it's sometimes it's like personal space. Like the worst thing is just this thing. But what's funny is that's also the best part
Yes.
of dogs.
Right? It depends on
Right.
the moment.
Right. And to me, also, the best part of dogs is just that they love you. Like they
Yes.
just love you. There's no criteria. And a cat's like, I've deigned to be with you. And a dog's like, you were gone for 30 seconds and I was so alone. And
Yes.
so I also think I give off big, like, golden retriever energy myself. So I feel like I have
That's what
sort
I
of like,
have is a golden retriever. And it is
right.
so, yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, and then the worst part is when they leave you because the time is so short. But oh God, I love them. The best part is just how the
Yeah.
love.
All right. Worst thing about ferrets. Did you get to know much about ferrets through any,
Um,
or did you already?
well, I did, but you know what? Now it's been so long since I did the research, so I'm trying to remember. The worst part about ferrets is that they're much more fragile, I think, than people realize, right? Because of the long body, they can have back problems.
Oh, okay.
So like, and that's the worst thing about, I mean, the worst thing about ferrets, but also you probably shouldn't really have them as pets. They're they're a little bit, I mean, they are still wild animals,
Yes.
like they're not really domesticated.
Do you have a
But
best about ferrets?
well, besides the fact that they're adorable, right? I
Adorable.
think the best thing about ferrets is they just have tons of personality, and I think that that's kind of why I was drawn to like a ferret as a character as well, because I was like, they're cute, but they're also just really lively, and they,
Yeah.
they have tons of personality. That's where I was going.
All right. Do you know enough about weasels to say a best and worst? Or we should.
Okay, what I can tell you, okay, so best and worst about weasels. They're all in the Mastelidae family. I think I've said that correctly, but I don't know. So the best part about the weasels is that they're actually so closely related to ferrets.
Uh-huh.
Like as actual animals, I don't really think I do know too
Okay.
much, right? But one of the best things I did discover though about this group of this ferrets, weasels, stoats, right,
Okay.
is the honey badger is also in this
Is it? And they're
family.
mean.
Yeah, they're super crazy.
Yeah.
And I really have always wanted to write a honey badger
Uh-huh.
as a character. So when I was doing research, I was like, weasels are so interesting. Oh, and then I'm like, a honey badger. Oh, tell me more. I just think I don't know. I don't know that I do have a really best and worst about weasels, except that they're also just they're great villains. They're just
Uh-huh.
great characters
Aren't they?
because
They are villains in so many things. Like the
yeah,
first thing I thought of was Mickey Mouse, but
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Ah, the weasels. Okay, this book is so much about friendship. The worst thing about friendship.
The worst thing about friendship, I think it's in adulthood, it's that you don't get to be with your friends as much as you'd like. I'm really grateful that Zoom and like, these kinds of things came out of the pandemic because it's allowed me to be connected with people who, far and wide that I really would never have gotten to meet otherwise, right? But I think the worst part is how hard it is to get together,
To
with
maintain
people.
those friendships and have the
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Okay. And best?
I think the best part is when you find someone who's of a similar mindset, like where you find someone you're like, oh, okay, we can go make mischief together. Like we can go, right, or we have the same sense of humor and stuff like
Yes.
that. So I think that, and the best part too is when you meet someone new and that kind of discovery process, it's almost like falling in love,
Yeah.
right? Where you meet someone and it's that excitement of, oh, and you get to learn about people. I do love making new friends. I think that's one of
Cool.
the best parts.
That's cool. All right. Dot, the dog character, is
Mhm.
so into fashion. What's the worst thing about clothes, fashion, whatever?
Well, the worst thing is I actually have no sense of fashion. Like I actually sometimes will see pictures of myself and I'm like, I went out in that and I felt pretty comfortable
Uh-huh.
out in that. And I'm like, and that did that, I am not at all a fashionista. So the worst part
No.
about fashion, at least for this book, was me being like,
Am I right,
okay.
this?
I'm doing all these Google searches. I'm like, what is taffeta? Like would I put her in there? So I think really just it was just that it was somewhat foreign to me because I really don't have a fashionista kind of mindset. But those are oftentimes also the most fun to write
Yes.
when the character isn't as much like you and you get to kind of like stretch yourself a little bit. So and Dot has some of my personality, right? But yeah. So the worst part really about the the fashion was just I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Um, you
I'm
know,
feeling the same way. Yes.
I'm always like, did I shower? Am I comfortable? Well, woohoo,
I'm
that's
like,
the
this is just
fashion,
Zoom. I'm okay.
right?
I
You're like,
almost
they're
forgot to
not
put
gonna
on pants
know.
as I'm coming downstairs, and I was like, what if I had to accidentally stand up? Yeah. Yeah, there's that.
Uh, And then
Best thing. Is there a best thing about it since it's not your thing?
I think though, when you find something that looks good on you
Yes.
and you feel like you look good, you know what I mean? Like you not just feel, but you're
Yeah.
looking your best, right? I think that's the best thing about fashion,
Cool. Cool. Like it. All right. Phil's super into food. What's the worst thing about food?
that it's fattening.
Rude, right? That is just one of the rudest things that our creator did to us.
Well, and also making it. I'm not the primary cook in my house. And I'm so fortunate because my husband and my oldest son both love to cook.
Nice.
So, and I'm just like, and they're like, do you like this? And I'm like, did I make it? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then I love it. This is
Then I
fantastic.
love it.
So,
Exactly. That's the best
so,
part of it.
so the worst part of food is fattening and then having to make it.
Okay, what's the best?
Oh, it's just it everything. It's delicious. I love new food experiences. I love tasting something new, and I don't have a really great sense of smell, so
Oh,
my sense of taste I don't want to say limited, but it's not as sharp
okay.
because of that, right? So I like very, very strong flavors.
Mm,
And I love that feeling. Also, it kind of creates a euphoria, I think, sometimes, which is
yes,
where
it
I think food
does.
addiction can come in. But I just love tasting something new. And it's funny because I'll often talk about story
Uh-huh.
like food, where like you want to watch something or you want to read something, but you don't know. And I'm like, well, what flavor am I looking for?
Yeah.
So I think it's there's like a
Do I want to experience here?
yeah, yes, I think that's it. It's the experience of it.
Yes, I love food so much, and I have a very strong sense of smell. Like my son has one too, and I'm like, you've got to embrace cooking, which I love to cook, but I hate taking the time to cook.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a love
yeah.
hate there, but I love trying new things and experimenting with things. And when I go to like a different country, I love to eat all of their things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or even just Lebanese restaurant and get the sampler and taste every flavor.
Yes, me too.
Oh, I love it. Thinking back to when you first started your career as a writer, what was the worst thing about it?
The worst thing because I had chosen traditional publishing, I knew I needed yeses in
Okay.
order, right? You have to get a lot of no's before
Mhm.
you get yeses. And sometimes the worst part I think really was the doubt that would creep in where you're like, well, maybe it's not as good as I thought, or is this ever going to
Yeah.
happen?
Yes.
That uncertainty and that fear and a lot of times established authors will try to give you pep talks,
Yes.
especially back then, and they're trying to be honest about the industry because it is a hard
Yeah.
industry,
Yeah.
and it would get very discouraging at times where it's like, well, it's very hard, but I my thought was it's happening for somebody, so why
Why
not
not
me?
me? Yeah.
So, and that's really that and a lot of prayer got me through that
Nice.
time. But yeah, so the worst part is really the uncertainty and that well, for me too, it was also this feeling of desperation and it
Yeah.
triggered some of my childhood trauma stuff
Oh,
about
okay.
being chosen and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And in that way it was really, really hard.
Yeah.
But then you get the yes.
Yes.
And then you get an editor who is in love with the book and you're like and I'll say like when you get an agent you're not alone anymore, right?
Yes.
And
Because
you
they
you have
took you on because they believe in you,
yeah.
not just because they needed, more work.
Right.
Yeah.
And that belief, and they'll fight for you. You are not alone in that fight. And that is so important. And then with an editor, and I've been very fortunate. I've worked with the great Kristen Renz at
Mhm.
HarperCollins for
Nice.
my whole career. And she and I are just very much of the same mindset. And in
Awesome.
fact, if you actually ever see a picture of her, we look very much
Oh,
alike.
really cool.
Oh yeah, like a lot alike. And my husband's like, I don't know. I've never seen you two together. You could be the same person. But
And
so
that would be awkward if he saw her and you weren't married.
yeah, no, I mean, so like, yeah, the worst, this industry is hard, but the
Yeah.
best is the people. And then
Yes.
the best is you've created something and it's out in the world and other people are
Love it.
experiencing it. And that's just amazing. That's so powerful.
Ooh, gives me goosebumps. Makes me excited. I want to be there. All right, cool, cool. Worst thing when it is a brand new book. Like, so whether it's this one, Zudini, when it's a brand new book, what's the worst thing about starting that new one?
Oh, about starting the new one?
Yeah. Like a blank page.
Do you know, I am such an overthinker.
Uh-huh.
And the worst part is having to force myself past the internal dialogue that's going, this is terrible, this is not right, you're not doing it, and being like, that's okay because this isn't what's going to the editor, or like
Yeah.
to your agent, right? It's the worst part is allowing it to be wrong or bad or
Yeah.
whatever and then having to push through that
Yeah.
thing, otherwise I could really loop on the first like paragraph
Yeah.
even, do you know what I
Just
mean?
rewrite it and
Yeah,
rewrite it before you progress. Like you
yeah,
just keep
yeah.
fixing it and making it where you want it to be.
But then sometimes that can take forever and so you're like, just move
Yeah.
on, yeah.
Yes. All right. And the best thing when it's a brand new blank page ready to start a new project.
I am a discovery writer. Well, so there's pantsers and
Yes.
plotters,
Mhm.
and I call myself a plotzer because I need a few key pieces of plot.
Yes.
But for the most part, I'm a discovery writer. So I'm
Oh,
like, and I have to know what my end is. And
yes.
sometimes it can change. Usually my ends don't change. My
Okay.
beginnings might, but I have to know the end, and then I need a few key story points in the middle. And then my favorite part is then writing, and you write something that just comes out in the moment, and
Yes.
you're like, oh my gosh, that's so funny, or oh yes, that makes
Cool.
it make
Cool.
sense. Or sometimes you write a line and you're like, I am a genius. Like I'm a
Yeah.
comedic genius or whatever. I also really love I love writing comedy. So
Okay.
I will write stuff and I'll
Will you
be
sit there and laugh
laughing.
to yourself? Yeah,
Oh, dude,
that's a
I
good
laugh
one.
out loud and I'm laughing. And my husband from the other room will be like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, me, I don't
Myself, and I am funny.
So I love the discovery that comes along with it. Like, you kind of know the characters, but then they tell you more about themselves. And it feels sort of, well, not sort of, it feels like magic,
Yeah, that's
you know?
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so PJ and I met at a writers conference, actually just barely in February, but I've been aware of her. I especially saw Zudini a lot. I just there's just never time to read everything and get to know everybody that's out there, right? But we've been in different Facebook groups that we're in the same of, and so we met at a writers conference and connected. But what is the worst thing about going to these writers conferences?
I will tell you. Okay, so I think the worst thing is the feeling that'll come when you go into a class
Mhm.
and it's a system that just doesn't work for you.
Okay.
But especially when I was a newer writer, when I didn't know myself that well as a writer, and I didn't have that the same level of confidence. I would go into a class, and when someone's teaching something, they tend to be absolute because they're standing there as an authority, so that's sort of what
Yeah.
they need to do.
Yeah.
But it's not every system or every whatever works like all
Yeah.
these, right? And for every writer, and I would get mad, and I'd be sitting there and I was like, "Ugh," and then I finally realized you're mad because you're trying to make something apply to you that does not
Doesn't,
work for you, right?
and that's okay.
So
Yeah.
right, so let it go. I think the worst part is trying to trying to still trying not to be so influenced that you aren't allowing yourself to be the writer
Okay. Yeah.
you are, right? To play to
Yeah.
your
Trying to
strength.
learn from it while still being yourself.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
important because
yeah,
otherwise we'd all be the same and that'd be dumb books.
yeah.
All right. What's the best part about going to a writers conference?
I love people. I
Mhm.
love people who love story, and I love to talk story with people. Writers are, and also the other thing is, if you don't hang out with writers a lot, you're like I'm a weirdo, and then you go hang out with writers, and you're like, ha,
Ah, that's
nah,
me.
right?
I knew
It's-
my people were out there.
Right. And it just is that feeling of, because really there's a lot of stuff that writers do that's very weird or like
Right.
quirky or whatever. And it's sort of neat to be with other people and you go, well, and then I thought, and they go this, and you're like, yes, exactly. Right.
Right.
It's community. It's just really the greatness of community.
Yes. Right.
So yeah.
Love it. Okay. Can you tell us what is next? Do you have a project that you're allowed to say, or is it in those sensitive moments where it hasn't
Well,
been announced?
I'm working on stuff for older readers right now.
Okay, cool.
I
So upper
do.
middle grade or young adult or adult?
Well, young adult and adult. Right now, the
Okay.
one I'm working on is adult, and it's so entirely different. When I got my first agent, I got her with a young adult contemporary that was very dark, and it
Okay.
was like mental health stuff, right? But I was also writing things like Horace and Bunwinkle and middle grade, and she was like, "We need to separate these two identities." She's like, "I love that you write broadly,
Yes.
but we need a name for the middle grade and a different name for."
Like pen name, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so PJ Gardner is my maiden name.
Uh-huh.
And then PJ Schweitzer is my married name. And what I'll do is I'll publish the older stuff for that. So it's just a long way of saying I'm working on something for older readers that is a fantasy Western.
Okay.
Um, and it's kicking my
Like it.
butt. It's so big. It's like,
Uh-huh.
so I have some other projects I'm working on. And I do have a middle grade that I'm kind of like slowly working on. It's about these fairy tale creatures
Uh-huh.
that are fighting over an apartment complex.
Nice.
And so you've got, anyway, so like that's as much as I want to say right now,
Okay.
because
Okay.
that one, I'm not actually a natural world builder, like
Yeah.
fantasy world builder.
Yeah.
And that one I have, like I know that world.
Cool.
But for some reason it's been a little slow right now, to work on. But so yeah, so I have two different ones. I need it because I got the all the stuff going on in my head. So I need to be able to funnel into different projects. So those are the two things I'm working on.
Cool.
Right.
Like it. All right. Can you share a book that you just love written for children that's not your own?
Well, I wanted to share two. The book Reach,
Oh,
my
by Celesta.
yeah, Celeste
Yeah.
Remington.
I
Yeah.
started listening to it and then Libby took it back. So I need to get back to it again.
It's a really beautifully written book. Celeste is just an exquisite writer.
You
And
guys teamed up on a project, didn't you? You guys did a
yes,
book
yes,
about for writers.
yes, for young writers. I don't know where I have it at the moment, but yes, it's Tools Not Rules, a creative writing guide or a writing guide for young
I
creatives.
love that after what you said was the worst about writers' conferences, tools, not rules.
Yes, that is a big thing for me. And so when even I do like virtual school visits, I always have a slide that's like, these are tools.
Nice.
Not there are
I
very few
like it.
real rules in writing.
Sorry, go
And
back to
so
Reach. I get off
so
track.
Reaches is just a really, it's a beautifully written story, and it's one I think a lot of kids, especially today, can relate to, which is mixed families, where you've got mom's got a kid with, and dad, like you're the one kid, but dad's got new kids, mom's got new kid, and how you become a family with family,
Yeah,
and trying to find your place in that. It's really beautiful.
nice.
And then for anyone who likes spooky stuff, my friend Sarah Allen wrote Monster Tree, and it is delightfully
I
creepy.
haven't read it, but I'm familiar with it.
And I mean, Sarah's brilliant, period. She's written some heavier, more serious, more literary,
Hmm.
and then she's written some spooky, and it's all fantastic. You cannot go
Nice.
wrong with any of her books. But Monster Tree, I really, really liked. And I know a lot of kids love horror. It's just like they're really drawn to that.
I love it. I didn't think I would because adult horror is too much for me.
Yeah.
Middle grade horror is where it's at. I can handle that.
Yeah.
And it still is scary. It
Yeah.
scare me.
And you have to really with kidlit, especially middle, you have to
Mhm.
be creative about how you're getting certain things across because you're much more limited in kind of in what is allowed,
Yeah.
But you can do a lot. And so yeah, I think middle grade horror is fantastic, and Sarah's excellent at it. So
Excellent. Excellent. Well,
those are my
I will add that to be read soon. It's been on my list, right?
so many.
Nice. Thank you, PJ, for taking the time and talking with us about all the worst and best of writing and your books.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Hey there, I hope that you enjoyed hearing from PJ Gardner and about all the worst and all the best of writing. Hey, do you know what is just the worst? When somebody loves a podcast and doesn't go and review it. But do you know what's the best? If you love this podcast and you leave a rating and a review, that just makes this the best day ever because it helps more people find the podcast.